The observation lounge of Station Helios 9 sparkled with bioluminescent panels that pulsed in rhythm with the station's artificial heartbeat. Representatives from 47 different species mingled beneath a dome of transparent aluminum, gazing out at the star field beyond. This was neutral ground, a place where the Galactic Trade Consortium conducted its business far from the political complications of any single homeworld. Captain Elena Vasquez stood near the viewing port, her dress uniform crisp and formal, watching the docking procedures through the transparent hull. The TSS Vanguard hung in space like a relic from another age, her hull plating scarred from decades of service, her weapon ports clearly visible even to the naked eye. She was a frigate-class vessel, built in the orbital yards above Luna 70 years ago, and she looked every day of her age. Around Elena, the murmur of conversation in a dozen languages filled the air. Universal translators rendered most of it comprehensible, though the nuances were often lost. She caught fragments as alien diplomats noticed the human vessel, a Thessian trade minister, her crystalline body refracting light in rainbow patterns, gestured toward the Vanguard with one of her 4 delicate arms. The sound that emerged from her vocalization chamber was like wind chimes, but the translator rendered it as clear contempt. Is that their escort vessel? It looks like it belongs in a museum, not in active service. Her companion, a Vorath whose sleek serpentine form coiled around a floating platform, bobbed his triangular head in agreement. I have studied human history. That design is at least 5 generations behind current military standards. They still use physical projectiles, can you imagine? Hurling metal through space like savages throwing rocks. Elena kept her expression neutral, though her jaw tightened slightly. She had heard it all before. Humanity had joined the galactic community only 30 years ago, and in that time they had been consistently underestimated. The other species had been traveling the stars for centuries, some for millennia. Their technology had evolved along elegant lines, becoming more efficient, more sophisticated, more refined. Human technology had evolved differently. It had been forged in the fires of 2 world wars, countless smaller conflicts, and the brutal necessity of surviving in a hostile universe without any help. Where alien species had learned to manipulate exotic particles and fold space with mathematical precision, humans had learned to make things that worked, that could be repaired with basic tools, and that hit hard when they needed to. Ambassador Marcus Chen approached Elena, his aged face creased with the kind of patience that came from decades of diplomatic service. He was 73 years old, had survived the first contact crisis, and had negotiated humanity's entry into the consortium. Nothing rattled him anymore. I see you've noticed our admirers, he said quietly, accepting a drink from a passing service drone. Hard to miss, sir. They're not exactly whispering. No, they rarely do. Chen sipped his drink, some kind of fruit synthesis that tasted almost but not quite like mango. Let them underestimate us. It's been our greatest advantage since we arrived on the galactic stage. With respect, Ambassador, it makes our job harder. We're here to negotiate trade route access through the Kepler passage. If they don't take us seriously, they won't give us fair terms. Fair terms are for equals, Captain. We're not equals in their eyes, not yet, but we will be. Chen smiled, an expression that held more steel than warmth. Trust the process, and trust that ship of yours. She may not look like much, but I've read her service record. The Vanguard has more combat experience than half the vessels in this system combined. Before Elena could respond, a chime echoed through the observation lounge. The ambient lighting shifted to a soft amber, indicating the beginning of the formal proceedings. Representatives began moving toward the central conference chamber, a massive room designed to accommodate the wildly different physiologies of the consortium's members. Elena followed Ambassador Chen, noting how the crowd seemed to part around them, not out of respect but out of simple disregard. Humanity was the new species, the primitive upstarts who had barely mastered faster-than-light travel, while others were experimenting with dimensional shortcuts and quantum tunneling. The conference chamber was impressive by any standard. Seating arrangements accommodated species that sat, floated, hung, or simply existed in containment fields. The human delegation was assigned a modest section near the back, appropriate for their junior status in the consortium. The session began with the usual formalities. The consortium arbiter, an eldest being whose species had been traveling the stars for over 10,000 years, called the assembly to order. His form was difficult to look at directly, existing partially in dimensions that human eyes couldn't quite process, but his voice was clear and authoritative. "We gathered to address the human petition for full trade route access through the Kepler Passage. This corridor connects 17 major systems and is vital to commercial interests across this sector. The humans request equal standing with all other consortium members." A Krell representative rose, his massive form making the reinforced platform creak. The Krell were warriors, their entire culture built around strength and conquest, though they had channeled those instincts into economic dominance rather than military expansion. His voice was like grinding stone. "The Kepler Passage is defended by consortium vessels equipped with modern defensive systems. For security purposes, all species with access must be capable of contributing to its defense. The humans lack the necessary technological sophistication. Their vessels cannot interface with our tactical networks. Their weapons cannot penetrate modern shielding. They are, simply put, inadequate." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Elena felt her hands curl into fists beneath the table, but Chen placed a calming hand on her arm. "Not yet," he whispered. Another representative stood, this one a Silthrian whose gossamer wings shimmered with holographic data displays. "Perhaps we could offer the humans a provisional status, limited access with the understanding that they upgrade their fleet to minimum consortium standards within a specified time frame." It was meant to be a compromise, but Elena heard the condescension clearly. They were offering humanity the equivalent of a children's table at a formal dinner. Chen stood, his movements deliberate and dignified. "The consortium's concern for security is understandable. However, I would remind this assembly that humanity has successfully defended our trade routes for 3 decades without assistance. Our methods may differ from yours, but our results speak for themselves." "Your methods are crude," the Thessian minister interjected, not bothering to stand. "You rely on kinetic weapons, chemical propulsion, and physical armor. These technologies were abandoned by most species here thousands of years ago. There is a reason we evolved beyond them." "Perhaps," Chen replied calmly. "But evolution is not always about becoming more complex. Sometimes it is about becoming more effective. A simple tool that works is superior to a sophisticated tool that fails. A primitive philosophy for a primitive species," the Vorath diplomat hissed, his translator rendering the comment with unmistakable disdain. The chamber erupted in conversation, some species defending humanity's right to be heard, others agreeing with the assessment of human inadequacy. Elena watched Chen's face remain impassive, though she knew him well enough to see the calculation in his eyes. He was waiting for something, though she couldn't tell what. The argument continued for 20 minutes, going in circles. The consortium seemed divided on whether to grant humanity full access, offer provisional status, or reject the petition outright. It was clear that no consensus would be reached today. Then the station's emergency alarm began to wail. The sound was designed to be universally recognizable, a pattern that triggered instinctive alarm responses in species across the evolutionary spectrum. The holographic displays throughout the chamber flickered and changed, showing the tactical situation outside the station. 12 vessels had just emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. Their signatures were irregular, cobbled together from parts of a dozen different species' technologies. Pirates. The Krell representative's voice boomed across the sudden silence. "Battle alert. All civilian vessels are to move to the far side of the station. Consortium defense forces will engage." Elena was already moving, Chen close behind her. They reached the observation lounge in time to see the pirate fleet accelerating toward the station. The vessels were ugly things, asymmetrical and brutal, bristling with weapons that had been stolen, salvaged, or improvised from whatever technology they could acquire. "They're Reavers," Chen said, his voice tight. "I've heard of them. They operate in the lawless regions beyond consortium space. They adapt stolen technology, creating hybrid systems that are unpredictable and dangerous. 6 consortium defense vessels moved to intercept. They were beautiful ships, each one a work of art and engineering. Their hulls flowed with energy fields that bent light around them, making them shimmer like mirages. Their weapons were invisible, beams of exotic particles that could disassemble matter at the molecular level." Elena watched as the consortium ships opened fire. Beams of purple light lanced across the darkness, striking the lead pirate vessel. For a moment she thought it would be a quick engagement. Then the pirate ship's shields flared, not with the elegant shimmer of advanced technology, but with crude, Pulsing light. The beam weapons scattered across the surface, their energy dissipated by some kind of adaptive shielding. Impossible, the Krell representative growled, staring at the tactical display. Those are Reaver modifications. They're using scavenge shield generators configured to rotate frequencies. They're adapting to our weapons in real time. The pirates returned fire with a chaotic mixture of weapons. Plasma bolts, particle beams, even primitive missiles flew toward the consortium vessels. The defense force scattered, their elegant formations breaking apart as they tried to evade the unpredictable barrage. One consortium ship took a direct hit, its shields overloading in a cascade of light. The vessel began venting atmosphere, pulling back from the engagement. The others pressed the attack, but Elena could see the problem immediately. The consortium forces were trying to use precision and sophistication against an enemy that fought with crude effectiveness. "They're going to lose," she said quietly. Chen nodded. The consortium has grown too dependent on their advanced technology. They've forgotten how to fight dirty. Another consortium vessel was disabled, this one by a missile that simply overwhelmed its shields through kinetic force. The remaining 4 defense ships began falling back toward the station, trying to regroup. The pirate fleet pressed forward, emboldened by their success. They were close enough now that Elena could see the details of their vessels through the observation port. They were nightmares of engineering, held together by determination and desperation, but they were winning. The Krell representative was shouting orders, coordinating the defense. But his voice carried an edge of desperation now. The consortium had never faced an enemy like this, one that used their own sophistication against them. Elena turned to Chen. "Ambassador, I request permission to engage." Chen looked at her for a long moment, then at the tactical display showing the approaching pirates. "You know what they'll say if you fail. I know what they'll say if we do nothing. Sir, the Vanguard may be old, but she's fought enemies like this before. Let us show them what human ships can do." Around them, alien representatives were gathering, watching the battle with growing alarm. The Thessian minister who had mocked the Vanguard earlier was pressed against the viewing port, her crystalline body flickering with distress signals. Chen made his decision. "Do it, and Captain?" "Make it count." Elena was already moving, speaking into her wrist communicator. "Vanguard, this is Vasquez. Battle stations. Prepare for combat engagement. We're going hunting." Through the viewing port, she could see her ship beginning to move, her old engines burning bright against the darkness. The other species barely noticed, too focused on their own failing defense. They had called the Vanguard primitive, outdated, inadequate. They were about to learn exactly how wrong they were. The station's defense was crumbling. 2 more consortium vessels had pulled back with critical damage, leaving only 2 still in the fight. The pirates were less than 100 kilometers from the station now, close enough that their weapons could begin targeting the station itself. And between them and their prize, the TSS Vanguard accelerated, her weapon ports opening like the eyes of a predator waking from sleep. Captain Elena Vasquez sat in her command chair, surrounded by crew members who had trained for exactly this kind of fight. The aliens thought human weapons were primitive. They were right. And that was exactly why they would work. The Reckoning, the bridge of the TSS Vanguard, was nothing like the sleek, holographic command centers of consortium vessels. It was cramped, functional, and filled with physical controls that could be operated even if every computer system failed. Screens displayed tactical data in clear, simple graphics. No elegant 3-dimensional projections, no neural interfaces, just information presented in a way that human brains could process instantly under stress. Captain Elena Vasquez settled into her command chair, her hands moving across the armrests with practiced ease. Around her, 23 crew members sat at their stations, each one a specialist who had trained for years to do their job perfectly. No artificial intelligence to assist them, no quantum computers to predict enemy movements. Just humans doing what humans did best, adapting, improvising, and refusing to quit. Tactical. "Give me a full breakdown of the enemy fleet," Elena ordered, her voice calm and steady. Lieutenant Marcus Webb, her tactical officer, was already pulling up the data. He was 32 years old, had served on 4 different vessels, and had a gift for reading combat situations. His fingers danced across his console as he compiled the information. 12 vessels, Captain. Varied sizes, from corvette class to what looks like a modified cargo hauler. Weapons are mixed. Plasma cannons, particle beams, missiles, and what appear to be salvaged consortium energy weapons. Their shields are adaptive, rotating frequencies to counter incoming fire. They're basically immune to the consortium's beam weapons. Armor, inconsistent. Some sections appear heavily reinforced, others look like they're held together with prayer and welding tape. No standardization, which makes targeting difficult. Elena nodded, her mind already working through the tactical problem. The pirates had done what any desperate force would do. They had taken whatever worked and cobbled it together into something functional. It was ugly, but it was effective. The consortium had never learned to fight opponents like this because they had never needed to. In their sphere of influence, everyone followed the same basic technological paradigm. Humanity had never had that luxury. Earth's history was full of asymmetric warfare, of conflicts where the underdog had won through creativity and determination, rather than superior technology. Every officer in the human fleet studied those conflicts, learned the lessons they taught. Elena had written her doctoral thesis on the Yom Kippur War of 1973, analyzing how Israel had overcome Soviet-supplied Egyptian forces through tactical innovation. Helm, take us in. Approach Vector 47, relative to the station. I want us coming at them from below their main formation. Aye, Captain. Vector 47, approaching from below. The Vanguard changed course, her fusion engines burning bright. Through the forward view screen, Elena could see the pirate fleet continuing its assault on the remaining consortium vessels. The defense forces were trying to maintain distance, using their superior speed to stay out of range, but it was a losing strategy. The pirates didn't need to catch them, they just needed to get close enough to the station. Engineering status on the main gun. Commander Sarah Okonkwo's voice came through the intercom, steady despite the situation. She was 58 years old, had been with the Vanguard since its commissioning, and knew every bolt and wire in the ship's systems. Railgun is charged and ready, Captain. We've got 12 shots before we need to cycle the capacitors. After that, we'll need 3 minutes to recharge. Understood. Weapons load tungsten penetrators. I want maximum kinetic impact. Tungsten penetrators loaded, Captain, reported Lieutenant Amy Chen from the weapons station. Missiles armed and ready. We've got 48 in the tubes, mixed loadout. High explosive, armor-piercing, and EMP warheads. Elena studied the tactical display, watching the pirate movements. They were confident, almost cocky, having just driven off the consortium's advanced warships. They had no idea what was coming toward them. Communications, open a channel to the lead pirate vessel. Her communications officer, Ensign David Park, looked surprised but complied. Channel open, Captain. Elena leaned forward slightly. Pirate vessels, this is Captain Elena Vasquez of the Terran Security Service ship Vanguard. You are engaged in an illegal attack on a neutral station. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded, or we will open fire. You have 30 seconds to comply. The response came back immediately, a harsh, grating laugh that sounded like metal scraping on stone. The translation was rough, but the contempt was universal. Human ship, we have defeated the consortium's finest vessels. Your antique is no threat to us. Turn away or be destroyed with the others. Your choice, Elena said calmly. Don't say I didn't warn you. Communications, close channel. All hands brace for combat. The Vanguard continued its approach, now less than 50 kilometers from the pirate formation. On Station Helios 9, Elena knew the entire consortium assembly would be watching, probably placing bets on how quickly the primitive human ship would be destroyed. Tactical. Target the lead vessel. I want firing solutions for both the railgun and missile batteries. Aye, Captain. Target locked. Range, 42 kilometers and closing. Fire when ready. The Vanguard's main railgun was a monster, a weapon that used electromagnetic fields to accelerate a 10-kilogram tungsten projectile to 4% the speed of light. It required massive capacitors, generated enormous heat, and was considered hopelessly outdated by consortium standards. Why use kinetic weapons when you could manipulate exotic particles to unmake matter itself? The answer was simple: because kinetic weapons always worked. The railgun fired with a sound that resonated through the ship's entire structure, a deep thrumming that crew members felt in their bones. The tungsten penetrator left the barrel at 12,000 kilometers per second, crossing the distance to the target in less than 4 seconds. The pirate vessel's adaptive shields, so effective against energy weapons, might as well have not existed. The penetrator punched through them like they weren't there, struck the ship's hull and kept going. The kinetic energy converted instantly to heat and shockwave, tearing through the vessel's interior. The pirate ship didn't explode, it simply came apart. Structural integrity failing as the projectile's path created a catastrophic wound from bow to stern. Debris scattered across space, glittering in the light of the distant star. The pirate fleet's formation faltered, confusion evident in their sudden course changes. "Target destroyed," Webb reported, his voice carrying a note of satisfaction. 11 vessels remaining. They're trying to locate us, but their sensors are having trouble locking on. That was another advantage of human technology. The Vanguard didn't emit the exotic particle signatures that consortium ships did. To advanced sensors designed to track energy emissions and quantum fluctuations, the human frigate was nearly invisible, just a chunk of metal moving through space. Missiles away, full spread. Target the 3 closest vessels. Mix of warhead types, I want to see how they respond. 24 missiles launched from the Vanguard's tubes, simple solid fuel rockets with sophisticated guidance systems. They weren't elegant, they were effective. Each missile had multiple backup guidance modes: active radar, passive heat-seeking, visual tracking, and even basic inertial navigation. If one system was jammed, another would take over. The pirates detected the missile launch and began evasive maneuvers, their vessels twisting through space with surprising agility. Their point defense systems opened up, filling space with plasma bursts and particle beams designed to intercept incoming ordnance. They destroyed 16 of the missiles. The remaining 8 got through. The first 2 missiles were high explosive, carrying warheads filled with advanced chemical compounds. They detonated on contact, creating fireballs that superheated the hulls of 2 pirate vessels. The third missile was armor-piercing, a simple-shaped charge that focused all its energy into a needle-thin jet of superheated metal. It burned through a corvette's hull like tissue paper, venting the ship's atmosphere in a violent rush. The fourth missile was an EMP weapon, and when it detonated, it released an electromagnetic pulse that fried unshielded electronics across a 5-kilometer radius. 2 pirate vessels went dark, their hybrid systems vulnerable to the kind of attack that the consortium had stopped using centuries ago. 7 vessels combat-capable, Webb reported. The remaining 4 are dead in space. They're regrouping, trying to form a defensive formation. Don't let them. Helm, bring us around for another pass. Weapons, target the largest vessel. Railgun, fire at will. The battle became a deadly dance. The Vanguard was slower than the pirate vessels, her fusion engines incapable of the rapid acceleration that more advanced drives provided. But Elena didn't need to be faster. She needed to be smarter. She used the debris field from the destroyed ships as cover, masking the Vanguard's approach. She fired missiles from unexpected angles, forcing the pirates to split their attention. When they focused on intercepting missiles, the railgun would fire, punching through their formations. When they tried to evade the railgun, missiles would find them. The pirates tried to adapt, tried to use their superior numbers and mobility to their advantage. But they were fighting the way they always fought, relying on the fact that their stolen technology usually gave them an edge against conventional opponents. Elena Vasquez was not a conventional opponent. She was a student of military history, a tactician who had learned from Earth's bloodiest conflicts. She understood that technology was only part of warfare. Psychology, timing, and understanding your enemy's mindset mattered just as much. The pirates expected her to maintain distance, to use her weapons from safety. Instead, she drove the Vanguard straight into their formation, her ship's physical armor absorbing hits that would have overwhelmed energy shields. At close range, the pirates couldn't use their heavier weapons without risking their own ships. The Vanguard could, her weapons designed for exactly this kind of brutal close-quarters combat. "Multiple hits on our hull," reported the damage control officer. "Sections 3 through 7 showing armor penetration. Ceiling breaches now. No critical systems affected. Keep us moving," Elena ordered. "Weapons switched to the autocannons. Let's show them what sustained fire looks like." The Vanguard's secondary weapons were simple rotating barrels that fired depleted uranium rounds at a rate of 3,000 per minute. They weren't designed to penetrate heavy armor. They were designed to shred lighter vessels and destroy external systems. The sound inside the ship was like rolling thunder as the cannons opened up. A pirate corvette made the mistake of trying to match velocity with the Vanguard, attempting to bring its weapons to bear at point-blank range. The autocannons tore it apart in seconds, their rounds punching through hull plating, severing power lines, destroying control systems. The corvette tumbled away, its crew already abandoning ship. 4 vessels remaining, Webb called out. They're breaking formation, trying to scatter. Let them run, Elena said. Target the command vessel. I want it disabled, not destroyed. Weapons, load concussion missiles, aim for the engines. The concussion missiles were designed for exactly this purpose, to deliver massive kinetic shock without penetrating the hull. They struck the pirate command ship's engine section in rapid succession, each impact transferring enormous energy into the structure. The ship's engines flared and died, leaving it drifting in space. The remaining 3 pirate vessels fled, their faster-than-light drives engaging as they ran for the system's edge. Elena watched them go without ordering pursuit. The mission was to protect the station, not to chase down every pirate in the sector. Ceasefire. All weapons safe. Damage control. Begin repairs. Medical casualty report. 3 injured, all minor, came the response from sickbay. No fatalities. Elena allowed herself a moment to breathe, feeling the tension drain from her shoulders. Around her, the bridge crew was performing their post-combat checks with professional efficiency. They had done this before, though rarely against such odds. Communications, hail the station. Let them know the threat has been neutralized. On Station Helios 9, Elena knew chaos would be reigning. The consortium representatives had just watched a 70-year-old human frigate, using weapons they considered primitive, defeat a pirate fleet that had driven off their most advanced warships. The cognitive dissonance would be overwhelming. Sure enough, when the communication channel opened, Ambassador Chen's face appeared on screen, and he was smiling. Behind him, Elena could see alien representatives crowded around, staring at the tactical displays in stunned silence. Well done, Captain. I believe you've made an impression. Just doing our job, sir. The Vanguard is standing by for further orders. Chen's smile widened. I think our petition for full trade route access is about to be approved. The consortium arbiter has requested an immediate audience with us. Something about reassessing humanity's technological capabilities. Through the view screen, Elena could see consortium security vessels moving in to secure the disabled pirate ship and recover the crew from the vessels drifting in space. They moved cautiously now, as if suddenly aware that their assumptions about combat effectiveness might need revision. The Krell representative's voice came through on an open channel, his grinding stone tone carrying what might have been respect. Human Vessel Vanguard, this is Defense Commander Thorak. Your combat performance was unexpected. I formally request tactical data on your engagement for review by consortium military forces. Elena exchanged a glance with Webb, who was grinning. Commander Thorak, we'd be happy to provide our combat logs. Though I should warn you, there's nothing particularly sophisticated about our tactics. We just use what works. What works, Thorak repeated slowly. Perhaps that is a sophistication we have forgotten. Over the next hour, as the Vanguard maintained position near the station, Elena watched the diplomatic situation unfold through Chen's updates. The consortium was scrambling to understand what had happened. Their advanced vessels, equipped with weapons that could manipulate reality itself, had been defeated by an enemy using stolen, hybrid technology. That same enemy had been destroyed by a ship using kinetic weapons and chemical explosives. The implications were staggering. Either the consortium had become too dependent on their advanced technology, or there was something fundamentally effective about simpler approaches that they had overlooked in their rush to evolve beyond physical warfare. The truth, Elena knew, was both. The consortium had optimized their technology for fighting other consortium members, creating an arms race of increasingly exotic weapons and defenses. They had forgotten that the universe didn't care about sophistication. It cared about effectiveness. Humanity had never had the luxury of forgetting that lesson. Earth's history was a long story of people fighting with whatever they had, making do with imperfect tools, and winning through determination and creativity. The Vanguard embodied that philosophy. She was old, scarred, and by consortium standards primitive, but she worked, and in the end that was all that mattered. Captain, Chen's voice came through again. The consortium arbiter is officially extending full trade route access to humanity, effective immediately. They're also requesting that we send military advisors to help them reassess their defensive doctrines. It seems we've started something of a revolution in their thinking. Elena looked around her bridge, at the crew members who had fought so well, at the old but reliable systems that had brought them through another battle. Tell them we'd be honored, Ambassador, But they should understand something first. What's that? Our weapons aren't primitive because we haven't learned to build better ones. They're primitive because we learned that sometimes simple, reliable, and brutally effective beats sophisticated and complex. That's not a technological lesson, it's a philosophical one. Chen's image nodded thoughtfully. I'll make sure they understand. Though something tells me they're beginning to figure that out on their own. Through the view screen, Elena could see the Thessian minister who had mocked the vanguard earlier. The crystalline being was standing at the observation port, staring at the human frigate with what looked like newfound respect, or possibly fear. Either way, it was better than contempt. The Vorith diplomat was there too, his serpentine form coiled tightly, his earlier confidence replaced by the kind of careful consideration that came from having one's assumptions shattered. Elena turned back to her crew. Well done, everyone. Helm, take us back to our original position. Let's give the diplomats time to work out the details. And someone get engineering on the line. Tell them I want a full damage assessment and repair schedule. Just because we won doesn't mean we stop maintaining our ship. As the vanguard moved away from the battlefield, Elena allowed herself a small smile. They had called her ship primitive, outdated, inadequate. They had dismissed human technology as crude and unsophisticated. They had been right about all of it. And they had still lost, because in the end, warfare wasn't about who had the most advanced weapons. It was about who used what they had most effectively. It was about training, discipline, creativity, and the willingness to do whatever was necessary to complete the mission. Humanity had spent thousands of years learning those lessons in the hardest school possible: survival. The consortium was about to learn them too, taught by teachers who still remembered that sophistication without effectiveness was just elaborate failure. The station grew smaller in the view screen as the vanguard took up her new position. Behind them, the debris of the pirate fleet drifted in space, a testament to the effectiveness of weapons that the galaxy had dismissed as primitive. Ambassador Chen had been right. They had made an impression, and that impression would change everything about how the consortium viewed humanity, not as primitive upstarts who needed to evolve to meet galactic standards, but as warriors who had never forgotten the most important lesson in warfare. Winning wasn't about fighting fair, it was about fighting smart. And nobody fought smarter than humans who had something to prove.